Filling the shoes of Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel is going to be nearly impossible for Iowa State, but if they're going to get it done, they need to look in the direction of the tight end room. Yeah, you heard that right, and we're talking about it today on Locked On Cyclones.
You are Locked On Cyclones, your daily podcast on the Iowa State Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Shout out to you for being here every single day and making this your first watch or listen of the day. I appreciate it more than you know. Wherever you're watching or listening, be sure to subscribe so we can prove once and for all that it is, in fact, a Cyclone state. Today, we're going to be breaking down why I think the tight ends will be the answer for Iowa State in the receiving game and who could stand out amongst the rest. Then we got a fun show coming down the pipe. Is Iowa State a football or a basketball school? We'll try to answer that question. And finally, in the third segment, we're going to talk a little bit about the uniforms. A little bit of a polarizing topic. Stick around to hear what's going on in my mind there. But let's start with the tight ends, because as is spring football, we got some exciting highlights and everyone's pumped up about it, myself included, obviously. I mean, look behind me, huge fan of the Clones. Benjamin Brommer goes up one-handed, back of the end zone grab, boom, bring it down. That's 6 points for the Cyclones. Granted, it is against the Cyclones, so is that kind of like giving up 6 points or scoring 6? We're going to look at it in the positive light and go with we scored 6 points. And so that got me thinking. Obviously, we've talked a lot about, is Iowa State going to fill the Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel hole in this offense from last year with Chase Soule and Xavier? Is this what we're going to do? Are we going to go through the transfer portal? Very possible. Very, very possible. But I don't think we should rule out the tight end room. I don't think that that's necessarily fair to those guys. I think obviously Benjamin Brommer, a name we're going to talk about, and Gabe Burkle, what he did last year, very notable. 26 catches, 296 yards, averaging almost 11 and a half, caught a touchdown as well. A couple other names coming out of that room that I think are worth mentioning. Obviously, we've talked so much about Cooper Alexander, and he saw obviously a season-ending injury last year, and so we didn't get a whole lot of actual true game tape, but I've heard his name thrown around a lot, and so it's one that we'll probably have to pay attention to. But looking at the roster here, Benjamin Brommer, Trip Walsh, Vince Benetti, ZJ Hayden, Jack Bjorn, Tyler Moore, seen him in person. Dog, shout out Tyler Moore. 6'5" is very large, and that's not even, I think he's, the third shortest tight end on this list. Fourth, maybe, I guess. Yeah, it should be 4. Either way, Gabe Burkle, then in there, Keaton Roskop and Cooper Alexander are who is in that tight end room. So I went and kind of looked at some of the stats of these guys. A lot of them really saw just a lot of special teams play, especially last year. But there are some guys that, didn't only see the special team side of things. And so one guy, obviously Benjamin Brommer, is who we're going to kind of focus on here. And I do this because his 2023 season was so good. When you look at Gabe Burkle and what he did last year, like I said, 26 receptions, almost 300 yards. That's 11.4 on average. Looking at Benjamin Brommer in 2023, 28 receptions, so 2 more catches, but 352 yards. That's an extra 58 yards, 56 yards, I think is actually the math on that. Extra 56 yards, which bumps his average to 12.6 yards per catch, and 2 touchdowns to go along with that, along with 48 in the season that was 2023. Also of note, he had 2 tackles in 2023. I'm assuming that was on special teams, 1 solo, 1 assist. Shout out that's the Iowa State football way for you there. That is awesome. But then last year still had 10 catches for 179 yards. You can do the math there. That's 17.9 yards per catch on average, with a touchdown and a long of 39. So that tight end room one we've talked about, that is, it was kind of beat up last year, realistically. And it's going to be, I think, the key to this offense. I've talked about it a few times on here. I do think that, yes, there is going to be a legitimate possibility that Iowa State is able to fill the hole at wide receiver with other wide receivers. Looking at the wide receiver depth chart here, Xavier Townsend and Chase Soule obviously kind of at the top of that. Chase kind of matching the Higgins model, Xavier kind of matching that Noel model. And I'm not saying that these two are those guys or that they need to play like those guys. That's not what I'm saying at all. And I know that they've kind of echoed that sentiment. Like, look, I'm going to be me. They were them. That's great. We're going to ball out, playing our game here, and move on. And I completely agree with that. But then you look at, I've mentioned, I think Eli Green and Isaiah Alston could be names to look out for next year, or I guess this coming year. Just I wonder how much of that was kind of overshadowed by the two big names that will probably be going early in this draft, and so that also plays into the tight ends. We saw some really solid years from the tight ends last year, but I think in general there was an element of Rocco drop back. Who's open? All right. Okay. Go to Higgins or drop back. All right. There's Noel. Boom. And I don't blame him at all. And I'm not saying that's what happened, but I think there might have been an element of that. And to be completely honest, this is kind of like the Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter conversation. It's like, I think he targeted him on over 50% of his throws or something ridiculous. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was something along those lines. And some talking heads were yapping about, like, look, is that even that bad? Like, if you have a Travis Hunter, you might as well throw it to him. So from Iowa State's perspective, is Rocco, if you have a Jaden Higgins, if you have a Jalen Knoll, throw to him. I mean, I believe Jaden Higgins had like a 50% contested catch rate last season on like 30 attempts or something wild. Like I said, kind of just throwing those numbers out there from deep, dark in the memory. I don't know how accurate those are. I apologize. The point is, the statistics, numbers aren't really what matters. Those dudes were ballers. They really were. And for Rocco to not throw to them would have been like, why are you not using your weapons? Like, we should probably utilize the guys that are probably NFL level talent. Doesn't that make sense? So I agree with him targeting those guys, but now that they're not in the system, where do you go? Got a couple transfers coming in that I do feel very, very solid about. A couple guys coming up the ranks here, kind of filling in those holes. I think they can be great as well. But look at the tight end room. Legitimately, not only does that diversify the offensive attack, no longer are you looking at just the outside or the slot receiver. The tight end now becomes a very legitimate problem. And when that happens, defenses have to allocate defensive mind power, physical power. I don't know, how do you even say that? But like, dudes on defense have to pay attention to the tight ends. Not to say that they didn't last year, or any year for any team ever. Of course, like, we're really dumbing this down by saying that, well, they don't have to worry about the tight ends because it's Higgins and Knoll. That's not what we're saying. But there is an element of like, okay, now if the tight ends are playing a bigger role, a higher percentage of defensive, like, manpower, maybe that's the word I was looking for, goes towards those tight ends. We can't really cram the box as much, chip the tight end and go. Like, we've got to actually maybe put a man on man. Maybe we got a hat on hat there. Maybe we got to get a linebacker specifically into a zone that Iowa State likes to attack with that tight end position, almost going with like a Travis Kelce approach of just find the open spot, which is something that Kelsey's better at than anybody. But we've seen how successful that can be, obviously, at the pro model. And Noah Pauley interviewing for the 49ers, obviously pro level wide receiver, passing game coordinator type guy. Maybe we see some implementation of that this year. I think this is a place where Iowa State can kind of take that jump. If you can really utilize these tight ends, who I do believe have some very high level talent. Obviously, Brahmer in that one-handed catch we saw. I mean, it was like, go up with two hands, fake it, boom, one, bring it down. Oh, how was that? How was that? How'd that feel? Touchdown Cyclones. And then the other guy's like, we're Cyclone. Like, we just kind of, we're going to, not a lot of, I don't want it to sound like Brahmer was in anybody's face. Totally a Cyclone response from that touchdown. Caught it, just walked away. Like, that is Cyclone football there. Nonetheless, still, I got excited. Obviously you could tell. So that was, that's where it's going to be exciting. Is what can that tight end room bring to the offensive attack, to that passing game attack. And as I was saying, like, Brahmer going to be a guy to look out for. Obviously, after a clip like that, you got to follow up that. And my eyes are still on Cooper Alexander, just from what I've heard. Unfortunately, haven't gotten a chance to see the man play. But Tyler Moore, also one of those guys, did see some success just in general across his career. Nothing too wild. Had a touchdown, I believe, against UNI. Also had a touchdown catch, I believe, against Arkansas State last year is who that was. So, like, we've got guys. We really do. I just want to see how they're utilized, and that's going to be kind of Noah Pauley and his offensive expertise, and then also Mauser and how are they going to utilize these guys. I think there's a lot of potential there. And it's just going to open up the book a little bit. And also it'll kind of show us, can Rocco get through his reads? If we're looking Soul, no. Townsend, no. All right, where's Burkle, or where is Brom? Like, what is the raid progression there? Then we might swing it to Hansen, whatever the case might be, instead of just, okay, yeah, I think Townsend's over there. Boom. Like, let's we if we can turn up that offense, like Iowa State might be unstoppable. They really, really might. Speaking of unstoppable, we have to figure out what was more unstoppable over the last 15 years. Football or basketball? Is Iowa State a football or a basketball school? Coming up right after this. This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible, every file, every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now, this is Taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Yes, Iowa State's offense is going to be unbelievable. We know this, but we need to talk about not so much this coming year. We need to talk about Iowa State in general. This is a conversation that I've seen thrown around a lot, and I think it's a lot of fun. Let's have some fun on this Friday here. Is Iowa State a football or a basketball school? I'll tell you right now, I think it's basketball. If you disagree, my Twitter handle is on screen at Nick_Mar for you listeners. Shout at me. Maybe we can get a mailbag going. Wouldn't that be cool? Let's start maybe moving the needle on that. Nonetheless, as we get into this dead season, let's talk a little bit about why I think it might be basketball. And to do that, I want to start with football. I think that makes the most sense to me. So that's what we're going to do. Obviously, we talked about Matt Campbell, and it was really in this week's episode about why I think this season is going to be so pivotal for kind of the image of Iowa State football and really athletics, moving forward. Looking at Matt Campbell's kind of record here, 3-9 in his first season. His best season was this last year at 11-3. In there, he did have a 1-8 season in conference in 2022. A lot of 5, 6, 7, 8 wins, basically kind of that middle of the road. And I said it yesterday. I've seen some comments like, hey, we'd be happy with 7 wins. I feel like that plays into my point. I'm not going to lie to you. Overall, Matt Campbell, winningest head coach in Iowa State history. This is actually, it's not. He's not, sort of. This is per Wikipedia, so keep this with a grain of salt. I thought there was some really funny stuff on here, so I want to mention this really quickly. 1892. Just think about how long ago that was. Ira C. Brownlee coached for 1 season. He had 1 win and 1 tie, giving him a percentage of 75% wins. 2 games. That's hilarious. That is so funny. Followed up by the next year, W.F. Finney came in, coached a season, went 0-3. So he had a 0% win rate there. Bert Gurman in 1894 then kind of blew the doors off of everybody and went 5-1, an 83% win rate. And then I suppose he was like, you know what? This isn't for me. They gave it to Pop Warner. Awesome. Coached about 4 1/3 seasons before I guess Joe Myers took over the rest of the 1899 season. And Pop Warner went 692, batted 692 there. Nonetheless, just a history lesson. I saw this on Wikipedia. Thought that's so funny. Coached 1 season, had a 1 win and 1 tie. Oh, that is awesome. Nonetheless, let's talk a little bit about Matt Campbell. Obviously, quite a few seasons under his belt by now. 64-51 is what this Wikipedia page has him at. It's a 557, about 56% win rate there. And if that's a little bit off, I know that like the actual win and loss of Iowa State football is off on here than what it was on the pamphlet I got from Iowa State. It's not so much about the actual, like, is this 1000% correct for this point? Because it doesn't really matter. Coming in at about that 56% win rate, you're going to be, about 6% better than anything in the last, 50 years. Yeah, right about 50 years. I think that's technically 40, but nonetheless, like you're kind of beating them pretty good there. And so I was like, okay, is that good or bad? Well, what's a football school? Alabama? Okay. What was Nick Saban's win record? About almost 90%. 87.7% there for Nick Saban. Kalen DeBoer now at 69.2%. So not that far behind, I guess, with only a few seasons. Is it even one season? I'm not, or 2 seasons. I mean, I think it's 2 seasons, maybe one. I think no, it's 1 season. My apologies. I don't know why I have no brain right now. I'm recording late. My apologies. All that to say, like, Iowa State football, awesome. I love it. I'll go to every game if I can. The traditions are amazing. I just don't think it's a football school. I don't think we've seen enough success to really say that this is a football school. All time, I mentioned it the other day, it was like 560 to 620 in wins to losses, roughly, give or take. More losses than wins, though. And so, looking at basketball, that's where I think this heats up a little bit. I've got this is also Wikipedia, so I apologize for the potential inaccuracies. But making the Final Four in 1944, allegedly, I have not double checked that, but that's what it says. Then the Elite Eight in 2000, of course, Sweet 16, 2, 4, 6, 7 times. And then you make the round of 32 a handful more, and a bunch of tournament appearances. Obviously, the last 4 years, 22, 3, 4, and 5, 2019. And then right before that, it was 12 to 17. So really, that's the last 13 years, pretty consistent appearances in the NCAA tournament. And that's obviously awesome. Then I took a look at some of the coaches and their win percentages, which don't necessarily matter too much, but Iowa State as a whole has a positive win rate. That's always good. Looks kind of like my win rate in Rocket League, actually, just right about that same percentage. But TJ Otzelberger at almost a 70% clip winning these games. A lot of tournament appearances since Fred Hoiberg in 2010. And then obviously a fair amount from like Johnny Orr in the 80s and 90s there. And so I don't think, when you have this conversation, and this stems from the Dan Patrick show, they were asking about this. It was right at the beginning of the tournament, the NCAA tournament. I think that this was, and it's not like which is the school better at, right? Because I believe a caller had come in and said like, hey, what about our we talked about on the squad show yesterday. Like, what about our rifle team for West Virginia? Apparently West Virginia and rifle team are they are unbelievable. I think Mountaineer Paul said they had 20 national championships and the next closest had 3, running away with it, which is absolutely insane. But is West Virginia a rifle school? No. I don't even know what they would be, football or basketball. I don't have enough knowledge on that. But the point is, like, when you think of this school, what are they? When you think of Wisconsin, is Wisconsin a football or a basketball school? When you think of Michigan State, it's probably a better one because I think Wisconsin's closer to 50-50. Is Michigan State football or basketball? I think I would say basketball. Obviously, some pretty great runs there. And so I think when you look at Iowa State football versus basketball in the conversation of historically, like, what do you think of? What is it? I think it's basketball. Basketball has always been very solid at the very least. And the football, it seems like they've kind of fell behind a little bit just in the general NCAA. It feels like Iowa State is much more relevant in basketball time and time again. You can always count on Hilton Coliseum, Hilton Magic versus football. It feels like some years, especially prior to Matt Campbell, it was like, well, yeah, like we're going to be happy if we get to a bowl game. Overall, Iowa State has a losing bowl game record. I believe only 5 bowl game wins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bowl game wins, including that Pop-Tarts Bowl. And I think they're 6-13 is the number. So making a bowl game, and then on top of that, winning the bowl game, proven to be quite difficult for the Cyclones. And so I guess let me know if you think we're a football school. I'd love to hear why, because I do love football. But I do think also that basketball, Iowa State, it just feels like it's what we're more known for. And so I don't know, does that play into the disappointment of this season? Potentially. Does that play into the excitement of last year's season for football? I think so, 100%. One of the last like 5 schools to get to the 10 win mark also plays into my point here. And to get to 11, very, very neat. Uh, yeah, that's really all I have to say on that. I think it's pretty cut and dry. I think it's basketball, 100%. I've laid out some of the stats for you there. Let me know if you disagree. Something you cannot disagree with me on, though, and this is a hot topic, but you can't disagree with me, is the uniforms. We got a lot to talk about here. We're talking about it next, right after this. So Iowa State football might not be Iowa State's thing. I think if we're going to really get down to brass tacks, Iowa State is a basketball school, but the uniforms that the football team wears, if nothing else, have been a topic of conversation over the last few years, and I'm all for it. I really am. Here at Locked On Cyclones, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Very controversial topic. I'll get my opinion out of the way first. Iowa State needs to wear more cardinal and gold. End of story. Okay. I know I've said it on Twitter. I don't know for sure. I'm pretty sure I've said it on here as well. Where are the school colors? Where are the school colors? The reason this is kind of coming up is I believe it was the Iowa State football media team kind of interviewed some guys and asked like, "Hey, what was your favorite uniform combo from last season?" And there was one kind of consensus answer. I'm going to run through these really quickly. If you want to see it, it's on Twitter for sure. Rocco Becht, obviously the quarterback, went with the Pop-Tart Bowl. From now on, when I say Pop-Tart, I'm referring to the black pants, white jersey, black helmet with the script. They kept calling it like the Oreo look. Marcus Neal said the all white. I believe the picture they put up was the all white with red and gold, the script helmet. Great call. James Neal, Pop Tart, Eli Green, either all white or all black. Tyler Perkins, all black. Kyle Conrarty, same as Marcus Neal, that all white with the red and yellow and the script on the helmet. Drew Surges went with the Pop Tart. Wyatt Archer went with the all white from the Baylor game. That was actually an awesome game. Benny Ngoye went with the Pop Tart. Ryland Barnes, went with the Pop Tart, called them the Stormtroopers. That's cool. Gave a little bit of credit in my opinion. Jeremiah Cooper went all black. Will McLaughlin went Pop Tart Bowl. Interestingly, I did note he called it a black face mask as opposed to a black helmet, nonetheless. And then Jameson Patton went with my favorite answer by far: red helmet, red jersey, white pants, white accessories. You're dripped out. I agree. I really, really do. And so I went to Twitter. I know that this account, awesome account at Cyclone Uni here. They pulled up, they made this graphic, I believe, of all of the helmet, jersey, and pants that Iowa State wore this year, and then the wins or losses on the year. Very interesting pattern. The I State logo was worn the first 4 games of the season on the helmet, then made 3 more appearances at West Virginia, Texas Tech, and Kansas. And then Iowa State basically went solely to the script. Now, between those two, I State, that is a very classic logo. It's almost reaching like a little bit of a vintage look for me, especially with this script thing potentially being more and more common. And I do like it. I think it's worth putting in the rotation, absolutely. But the script look is really sweet. For those of you listening, it's kind of like the bent Cyclones with the fancy font, and the S like wraps under the whole thing. Awesome. There's a lot of script helmets in college football. I think Iowa State's is up there with the best of them, especially when it's red and yellow. Obviously, the all black helmet with the white script and the all white helmet with the black script, they have their places. They really do. And the Baylor game stood out because that's a whiteout, and it's like all white helmet with black script, all white jersey with black like numbers and stripes, and white pants. Awesome. And the stadium showed out, and they had it on national TV, and it was like, this is Jack Trice Stadium. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the whiteout. And yeah, it's no Penn State, but it's amazing. And the best part of it, as a Cyclone fan, was it was all white, and then you had like these speckles of red and yellow of like, that's the Cyclone. Like, that's just red and yellow. That's what it is. And so that part to me is exactly why this movement towards all black and all white is just, it's odd to me, just personally. And I know that there are going to be people that say like, hey, if this is what the players want to wear, let them wear it. And I am for that. I do get that. If that's what you feel comfortable in, it's a superstition thing, whatever the case might be, roll with it. That's fine. But also, like, I'm just a diehard, I guess, oldie, like, wear the cardinal and gold. I mean, to be fair, when I play like Madden or NCAA, I do build some of the ugliest combos. Maybe I go yellow jersey, red pants, red helmet, like a stripe pattern, or all red or all yellow, which would be awesome for the football field. I don't know how that would work potentially on like a sunny day. Do you camo in with the sun there? We don't need to get too crazy there, but it's possible. So all of this to say, like the players seem to like the black and whites, either in a stripe pattern, like the Oreo as they call it, or all white or all black. Let me know if you agree or disagree, because like I said, I completely disagree. And I've seen some things out there that were floating around when this at the end of the season was becoming a conversation. Because at Cincinnati, you're going basically all black. Utah, you're away, so you're kind of all white no matter what. Kansas State at home, all black. Arizona State on the road at the Big 12 championship game, basically all white there. You had all black against UCF. You had all white against Baylor. And not a lot of other red jerseys in there. They played in the red jerseys 3 times this season, and no colored pants to my knowledge on this graph. It's either white or black. So there was a conversation of like, what if we bring back the 95 logo, the Signado, and there's like a blue mixed in with the jersey. And then the conversation was, well, technically the navy blue isn't one of the school's colors either. If you want to do that, it's got to be cardinal or gold. And yes, that's true. That is actually a fact. As far as I'm aware, that navy blue, whatever that is classified as, is not technically a school color, but it does play into that logo. And I would love to see Iowa State explore like the 95 logo, or like that Signado, or one of, I think, like this guy right here, like something like this would be really neat. Just an older logo that Iowa State doesn't use as much. Either it's the script or the I State right now. Let's look into some of those older logos. Let's go back to some throwback jerseys. I know the NFL is making more of a movement at their throwback jerseys this year, I believe, with up to 4 games. Teams can wear their throwback jerseys. Iowa State hopped on the striped trend, train, or whatever you want to call it, this last season. And almost, I believe, every game, had stripes on the shoulder pads. Like that was their thing. It was also the whole Big 12's thing. Am I crazy for wanting like a 1996 whole jersey, just the whole thing? Like, remember those jerseys that like kind of like shined in the light? Like, what if we wore something like that? I don't know, man. I just think that this transition towards a lot of black and white, it feels like not the school colors. And maybe I'm crazy for that, and maybe that's just, what it is now. But I saw what the players were wanting was, it seems like all blacks or all whites or an Oreo. And if that's what they want, that's what they want. But can we get like something like maybe the accessories have to be cardinal and gold? That'd be kind of cool, right? An all black helmet, jersey, pants, but everyone's wearing like red gloves or red armbands or yellow cleats. Like maybe it'd be really ugly. Okay. I don't have the simulator right up in front of me, but it could be really cool. Maybe it's like shoes and gloves are red, everything on the arms and shins are yellow. I don't know. Maybe it'd be ugly. I don't know. And Iowa State does get some flack just for wearing cardinal and gold, like, oh, ketchup and mustard. And then you wear all black and it's like, oh, they're trying to be Iowa. This was a tweet that I saw. And so shout out to Twitter. I'm not trying to steal this idea. It was not mine. But I also have been a part of those conversations. And I personally, like, I'll be a ketchup and mustard dude till the day I die. I love hot dogs. Kidding me? One of the best game day snacks, but also just meals in general. So it's just wild to me to see this transition. I would love to see, maybe we'll put out a poll on this, what the general pop feels on this. Because obviously the players very much for the blacks and the whites. And like I said, one white out a season, one black out a season, do it. Like I am for it, 100%. Do it. That's awesome. It's an event. Then you can have a red out. You can have a gold out. Like, why not leverage all of the colors as opposed to like, well, we're going to do a white out. And then UCF, I felt like nobody really knew if it was going to be a blackout or not. And then like the rest of the year, it's like they're kind of wearing all black, but there was nothing really. And the all white with the red and yellow, that's really cool. I like that for the away jerseys. Let's not do all white with the black script, basically, because they only did wear that one time last year. against Baylor. Every other all white jersey had red and yellow. Like that's just splash it in. Just splash it in. I don't know if red and yellow goes with black per se, an all black jersey, but on the white, it looks great. Roll with that. I'm totally cool with that. But it seems like the players want what the Pop-Tart Bowl kind of was with the white jersey, the black helmet, the white words, and the black pants. I don't know. Let me know down below or on Twitter because I'm fired up about it, but I guess some people don't feel the same way. So yeah, I'm out of words. Wear the cardinal and gold. That's all it is. If you're watching till this point and you haven't subscribed, what are you doing? We're proving it's a Cyclone state here, and it's completely free. Until next time, Cyclone fans, sayonara.